Hi, I'm Bruce Zawalsky. I'm author of Canadian Wilderness Survival and Chief Instructor of the Boreal Wilderness Institute. And today I want to talk about, if you take the apocalypse seriously, what do you need to read? So if you want to learn the real survival skills you need while stranded, please like this video, support my YouTube channel by subscribing. So this subject is a little out of my normal talk and league. And why is that? Why am I talking about something different? Well, it's because I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people a year asking me, how do I survive the zombie apocalypse? How do I survive if things completely go into the crapper? How do I survive if the world ends? And my thought on that is, in a general rule, you don't. Right? Most people don't take it seriously. But I want to talk about some of the things you should be thinking about if you want to take it seriously. So here's the first thing to understand. I personally believe we can keep civilization going. That's a personal thing. I think that we can avoid it because us dropping back to horsepower is just not acceptable. So, has anybody else thought of that? Well, Louis Dartnell did in his book, The Knowledge, How to Rebuild Our World from Scratch. This is the first book I highly recommend. And the reason I recommend is what Louis is doing in this book is trying to keep alive basic processes of science. One of the problems is our science has got so advanced over the years that things that people just took for granted 100 years ago or 200 years ago, in terms of knowledge they've gained, is gone so far past people that it's become industrial magic. And because it's industrial magic, they don't think it's going on. And this is why we've gone into some real big problems. There's a reason why when I pull out this bag, what does it contain? Well, it contains my mask and a pair of gloves, just in case. I wear the mask more often because, of course, it'll keep other people alive, but it's just smart. Why? Because I understand germ theory. In the Middle Ages, they didn't, and they died in droves. And that's why people had such a short lifespan. That's why they had a 50% rate of death among newborns. It was a horrible time to live. It wasn't a good time. It wasn't, oh, rah, knights in shining armor. It was a nasty time to live, right? So you might want to add to that something like this, emergency war surgery. But you'll never see a surgeon any time in the last 100 years not wearing a mask. Why are they wearing that mask? They're not wearing the mask to protect them, in a sense. They're really wearing the mask to protect you. They're wearing gloves to protect them. They're wearing a gown to protect them. They're wearing the mask to protect you, right? That's what it is. We call that good bedside manner in any of the medical world. It's just smart. So what else is around? Well, you're not going to learn how to survive on the SAS manual, and nor are you going to learn it on somebody's bug out guide. It ain't going to help, right? This is just going to prolong the agony, and this doesn't have enough knowledge in it to really make the difference, right? It's not going to happen. So it's going to be things like this. Louis Dartnell's book, The Knowledge, because you need to keep the knowledge. And by the way, here's a great thing. You notice the knowledge I own is in paper? Why? Because the stupidest thing I ever heard is somebody thinking they're going to take this on their iPad and survive the apocalypse. It ain't going to happen. It's got to be a paper book, and you've got to have it with you. And then you've got to have to start to add some very specific skills, and there's hundreds of them. Things like this. The Back to Basics Handbook. Something like this that teaches how you dig a well. How many of you have ever dug a well? Well, if you need one, you're going to have to start digging. And you've got to figure that out. You don't want to start from scratch and relearn, because the people that had to relearn knowledge generally just died. It didn't happen that way, right? Or they became so miserable that their technology dropped. And of course, Louis Dartnell's book is all about us keeping this stuff alive. How do we keep these technical processes alive? How do we make this stuff work? How do we reuse things? How do we make things out of used gear and equipment of civilization that might provide the metals and other stuff that we need at the beginning before we can learn to resmelt? Right? Because this is going to be a big thing. Suddenly I need 1,000 pounds of new steel. How do I get high tension steel? How do I make steel beams? That's a skill. You can't just, oh, I don't need that. I'm just going to drive my D8 cat. Well, how do you get your next D8 cat? It doesn't work that way. You got to rebuild civilization. And that's why the whole thing we're talking about is how do we restart civilization faster so less of us die? So we're less miserable. Because civilization is what's keeping us alive. It could be something as simple as this, a book about home preserving, right? Because this is real knowledge. Now, this is knowledge that my grandmother had on the tip of her tongue. But it's not knowledge that I had. When I had to look into it, I had to look around, read some articles, decide I'd buy a book, and read the book. Because I needed to learn that skill, and I needed to learn that knowledge, and I didn't want to lose it. I wanted to be able to take the vegetables in the fall and actually preserve them. Because that's the cycle of that. You can't just decide, oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ration my food and live off 1 peanut a day and I'll be alive. Because you're just going to die, right? If you want to preserve enough food, you have to plant enough food. Well, what does that mean? It's going to be more than a garden. A garden supplements what we have. So I've got some beautiful tomatoes growing right now, and they're going to supplement for 2 months of the year, maybe 2.5 if I'm lucky, my actual fresh vegetables. Save me some money, give me some good fresh food, introduce me to a couple extra species if I'm lucky, and everything goes in this year's garden, and done. Just like we have chives and other stuff. Those are all good, but they just supplement what we have. I'm not growing, I don't have enough land to grow on a farm, I got a house, that's life, right? If I pick up something in the wilderness, it supplements what I have. So you have to understand that if you want to take the apocalypse seriously, you must figure out what skills and knowledge you have to have with you. You must understand that family groups are the only way to do it, because you can't stick all the knowledge in your brain. And since you're never going to know exactly what you're not going to have, and some of the stuff you might just literally not understand is missing, you need to learn from the absolute best scientists we have alive today. So again, start with Lewis Dartnell's the knowledge, and then work your way up to specialization. It's more than just blacksmithing, although blacksmithing is an excellent skill to learn. It's more than just carpentry. It's more than just food preservation. It goes beyond that to basic skills that we might never think about, like well drilling, along with basic bushcraft skills. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you like this life-saving knowledge that you find on this channel, please support it by liking this channel, sharing this video, and following me on Twitter and the Boreal Wilderness Institute on Facebook. So thank you, stay safe, and if you're stranded in the wilderness, remember, just stop and survive.